You're watching WBGN TV.
Welcome back, my friend, to the show that never ends. At least it sometimes feels that way. This is Pro Wrestling Review, and I'm Brian Krasner from the Daily News.
And I'm Ray Dieter from the Tribune Review.
I'm Jim DeBruzzo, and, well, you all hate me, so...
I just hate your jersey.
Oh, okay.
Well, just to counteract that, I'm Tom Committee, and I guess you all love me, so...
Because you're not wearing a jersey.
Oh. Well, my Jim McMahon one's currently in the wash.
Well, we're back here on this another... I can just tell already we're all in top form. We just had a pay-per-view.
Go to black and white.
Yeah.
Now.
It's trivia time. We had a pay-per-view this past week in the Royal Rumble, and we saw the beginning, the seeds planted, to steal a line from myself, of the NWO. And we saw that on Raw this past Monday, and again on Thursday on SmackDown. And that's it, so...
Yeah, so Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, coming back.
Yeah.
Maybe
We've
with
all
others.
speculated about, so we'll probably talk a little bit about that later tonight.
I'm sure they'll be joined by a few other people that are under contract currently, who I hate.
Who do you mean?
Yeah.
That doesn't really narrow it down, does it?
No.
Well, maybe to sum things up here, the Royal Rumble this past Sunday, good pay-per-view, Raw the day after, not a bad show either, so maybe the WWF's hitting a trend. We don't know, but how much time do we have left in this intro?
9 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds, I'm sorry. So I can't go 30 seconds. I already said what we had to say.
Well, there you go. That's great. And if you people at home right now can't hear us, what you need to do is pick up the remote and use the volume button. We got some complaints last week, and apparently, I don't know if people realized if you had a Japanese remote or something like that. I know if you had a Sanyo, sometimes they're printed in Japanese. Or clean your ears out. But other than that, we're not going to talk about the volume anymore. But we're going to talk about the Royal Rumble, the NWO. And we're going to make football picks. And we're going to talk about hair metal, apparently.
Ooh, okay.
That's why you had mentioned that earlier. It's just...
Yeah, what the hell? We'll throw a segment in, maybe, a hair metal.
Please, I beg you to come back. I know we have given you no reason to in the last 2 minutes, but just come back anyway.
I'm so glad this segment's over. I've had this craving for pizza all day. And whether it's 12 cheeses, stuffed crust, or whatever, people just don't make pizza anymore that you can eat without a gimmick.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Review. Considering there's no NFL playoff game tonight, there's a good chance you actually might be watching us. So we're going to get into the Royal Rumble, which took place this past weekend, which saw some surprises and some non-surprises, I guess we can say. So we'll start off with the non-surprise. That's Triple H winning the Royal Rumble. Good match, real good Royal Rumble, but just no suspense whatsoever because I think everybody saw it coming.
Yeah, that's pretty much the what I took from it, just from reading on the internet different things, you know, and watching and following it on the internet. That really Triple H won it. There wasn't really it seemed like they kept all their big stars towards the end.
Yeah,
There wasn't. I guess there really wasn't anybody that lasted long because we debated last week on who the Iron Man was going to be. I guess there really wasn't one.
I guess Goldust, if you really have to name somebody. I think he was in at 1 or 2.
but he didn't stand out as a.
No.
It wasn't like usually the Iron Man stands out and you're like, God, he's been in the ring and he's eliminating people. He was just lucky enough to stick around.
Well, you talk about non-suspenseful, not being a surprise this year's Rumble. I would say Kurt Hennig being the last 3 or 4
Yeah,
left in the
last
ring
three.
was a decent surprise. And I know you have a rant topic later, so I'm not going to get too much into Hennig here. But it's nice to see him back, nice to see him sobered in the ring for once.
He
and
looked good.
In pretty good shape, yeah.
Yeah, he was, I mean, for 43 years old, the guy's
He's that
pretty-
old?
Yeah, he's pretty stacked. I mean, and he did look good. I mean, the Atlanta crowd, and what were they, Charleston the next night in Raw?
Yeah.
Two different crowds, because the Atlanta crowd reacted to everything Hennig did. Hennig hit the perfect plex and the place went nuts. So, you know, you got two different audiences watching him, but yeah, he looked good in the Rumble match, and they really took him seriously. You know, they kind of separated him from the West Texas redneck gimmick back in WCW, which made everybody forget about him and sort of make everybody think of Mr. Perfect again. So, nice move on their part.
As far as, entry of the superstars and eliminations, I'd have done a few things differently. I would have had maybe a few more guys in the ring at more times during the match. But as far as, restarting some stories and just getting some guys out there and, just continuing simple little stories, that they did do that effectively. And as we've been saying, that's one thing they've been missing.
Well, speaking of the winner, you mentioned Triple H, obviously, the non-surprise being the winner of the Rumble. Can we, and this has been on the internet all week and even long before that, can we say that Maven can possibly contest the win by Triple H? And maybe go to
if that's the
WrestleMania?
case, and Undertaker can contest the 1993 win of Yokozuna when the Giant Gonzalez threw him out of the ring.
He wasn't even really a competitor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
For some reason, I chose not to remember that. I can't understand why.
I didn't mean to rehash it.
But to elaborate a little bit on Jim's point, I mean, I guess you're talking about The Undertaker and his feud with the Hardy Boys that came to pass at the Royal Rumble. I was kind of disappointed that they went with the Hardy Boys reunion, but I guess since their singles pushes can be considered flops, that they really didn't have much else
I
to
don't
do.
think, and you brought this up that night, Brian, I don't think anyone really wanted to see it, and quite frankly, they sucked at it, because, as I said maybe a year ago, these guys can't wrestle. These guys have not yet learned to wrestle without each other as far as their offense goes.
But doesn't it deserve more time than maybe a week or two? I don't want to get too much off on a tangent on this Hardy Boy thing, but
Well, they just clearly weren't ready, though. I mean,
here's a wacky thought. Give them another year or two to grow in the tag division.
but the thing is,
already
you're
got
not you're not going to see that.
That's a problem with past booking, though.
You're not going to see it in one match with Matt and Jeff. Yeah, the match should have been a lot better, I agree, but it was just one match, and obviously Matt or Jeff doesn't have the mic skills right now to be on their own. Matt would be leading Jeff as far as mic ability, and that's kind of scary. But the thing is, the current WWF product, I mean, anything is not worth giving time to. Jericho wasn't pulling in 10 ratings on Raw and SmackDown, or 10.5 ratings. Let's grab the belt off him. Obviously, that's not the case, but I'm just saying, that's the mindset, I believe, anyway, in the WWF.
I mean, I don't doubt that the Hardy Boys aren't ready for their big push. I mean, I don't think they're ready to be single stars. But if you look back and earlier this year when Jeff Hardy beat Triple H for the Intercontinental title in April, they really didn't build, the WWF really didn't build on that. They didn't say, okay, Jeff, we're going to start you out on a singles feud, and Matt, we're going to start you on a singles feud, even though you can still collectively be the Hardy Boys as faces. They didn't really do anything else. The guys just kind of wrestled meaningless singles matches, and they would come on SmackDown for some reason and would wrestle tag matches, and they really didn't branch them out. And then all of a sudden they split.
Yeah,
and that's, I think that's the last
when the split happened, you even debate that even happened way too late. But as far as them wrestling Austin and Triple H back in those tag matches, that's what they needed to do with them. And if they're going to be serious about these guys as single stars, again, I just don't think together they're going to work out too well against each other as far as their offenses go.
But that's the point.
And you need them, if you're serious about them, you do need them to get in the ring with Triple H or
maybe not even so much that, but after they were in the ring with Triple H and had the experience with Austin, then go out and give them individual feuds. They can still be the Hardy Boys and still be the faces, but give them individual feuds, mid-card feuds.
Well,
I don't understand why they just went from feuding with two of the biggest single stars to being a tag team again. Then they split.
They can do that now. I mean, now's the time. If they're going to put them back together, if they're saying, look, they're not ready. It's simple enough, I think, where they could put a vignette together where Matt and Jeff are talking to each other. Matt says, look, we're back together, we've made some mistakes, but, there's bigger goals we need to accomplish. We can stick together, but let's go our separate ways while we're together and, try to attain some of these other goals. Because that way it's telling the fans that they're going to try to concentrate more on the singles, but at the same time, they're still Matt and Jeff, they're still buddies and stuff like that. And then people probably will be more accepting when they finally do split.
Because winning the tag team titles, as far as the Hardy Boys are concerned, is a moot issue because they've done it 4, 5, 6, 100 times.
So that's what happens when you give them the belts about a year and a half before they're even close to being ready.
It's not just that, it's also the overexposure of the product.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it might also boil down to the fact that what do you have in the WWF right now? 2, 3 tag teams, tops?
No, they're all bad.
Pretty much, besides Chuck and Billy, which I'm lobbying for just Chuck and
You're
Bill.
blowing up my rant topic here.
I don't mean to get off on it. Maybe more about the Rumble here while we wrap up. Who eliminated Steve Austin real quick?
That would
Perfect,
be,
wasn't it?
no, I think it was Kurt Angle. Angle done.
Angle eliminated Austin. I don't understand why the face gets eliminated in Austin, comes in with a chair, clocks everybody with it. Shouldn't those kind of tactics be reserved for the heel?
He's got to get his heat back.
That's right.
I realize that, and the crowd has to go home happy. I'm tired of that excuse. I am so sick and tired of hearing it.
I don't mean to jump to Raw yet, but they did the same stupid thing on Raw when The Rock pinned Chris Jericho. Look, here's my thing. I have no problem with if you want to give the guy the pin the next night after you lose at the pay-per-view. That's pretty standard in this business. But if that's the case, then Chris Jericho wins clean at the Rumble. Hands down.
But the case because he needed to use a bogus ref, a fast count, a low blow, and the ropes to beat The Rock, which I think is complete garbage.
Well, they're building him like a Ric Flair, but
Yeah, but we'll talk more about the title match from the Royal Rumble, but we're going to come back, so stay with us.
This is Stephon Devereaux.
And this is Diamond Lee, and you're watching Top Rank Wrestling, so don't go anywhere.
What's up with that, yo?
Well, welcome back to Pro Wrestling Review. It's Saturday night. It's about 10-ish, 10-ish, somewhere around there. And I wanted to just maybe close something with what we were talking about last segment about the Jericho, trying to equate him to Ric Flair. And this isn't a Ric Flair rant by any means, but about the underhanded tactics, the feet on the rope, pinning the Rock, the low blow, the crooked ref. The thing is, that's fine and dandy. That's both fine and dandy. But the thing is, and I'm going to bring up a point you brought up earlier in the week, Rennie, he can't do that with lower card guys he's wrestling. Jericho needs clean wins over him. And we talked about this earlier in the week, the fact that when Ric Flair did it to guys like Dusty Rhodes and guys like Sting, he also beat cleanly guys like Ricky Morton, guys like Ron Garvin, guys lower than Flair, say mid-carders. But the thing is, he used the undermined tactics with the main eventers, fine. But Jericho can't go in there with, I believe it was Rikishi, and get a tainted win with the belt or whatever. He needs to pin him to be taken more seriously. And I am done.
Well, I'd like to take that a step further. Also, another thing with Ric Flair back in those days with Dusty Rhodes was the other Horseman. Now, granted, I don't know if they're going to go entirely in that direction with Jericho, but if they are patterning Jericho after Flair in that time, you saw a lot of Christian and Lance Storm with them. Another thing would be, again, bringing up Rikishi, just have these guys keep coming out, interfering, and then maybe Jericho gets a clean win, or have him beating him with that, or whatever. I mean, heaven forbid, it might get Lance Storm and Christian over.
Nah, I don't want to do that, Jim.
Ooh, no. Give him something to do.
that'd be a good tag team right there. I mean, two guys that really don't have a whole lot to do right now, and they have a lot of tag teams. So.
And honestly, with Jericho, being with Jericho is an elevation for him.
Right.
But I actually wrote my column on it for the website when the subject that he brought up, and I think the point is that he needs to beat people like Rikishi clean. I mean, he doesn't need outside help. That's a guy who's a mid-carder that Jericho, as the undisputed champion, can beat. Then later on, after maybe Jericho loses the title, Rikishi can come back and they can feud. And it'll mean a little bit more because they feuded while Jericho was champ. They don't do that stuff anymore.
Well, people's attention spans are so short.
Well, because there's too much time devoted to dancing and saying what now that, no time for anything good. And, well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to be completely full of pessimisticity, so...
Well, we started this top of the segment showing clips of The Undertaker's performance at the Royal Rumble, and once again proving to be the company man that he is, being eliminated by Maven, who has all of about 6 months of in-ring experience. But Jim, you had mentioned before just the facial expressions The Undertaker used.
And Maven.
Oh, and Maven, right. Maven did a very good job in that whole segment. And of course, the wicked chair shot. And actually just takes a pummeling after that. I'm sure Maven scored some big points in the back with that, actually.
Nothing like a rookie putting up a stink about to beat up.
Well, no, but I'm saying
Flashback to
the way
Zan.
I'm doing it. That's
yeah,
it. Forget
I
it.
just mean the way he put it over. I mean, he got whipped during that segment. I mean, it was
I
almost like a
understand. I'm
respect
just-
beating, and he did a nice job, and I think it helped. I think that's going to help him in the long run.
I'm going to have to bring up two examples of that. The rookie actually going out and saying, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to deviate from it. Man Mountain Rock, who wanted to win the world title the first day he was in the Federation. You may know him better as Max Payne. And Santa Claus, who I believe tried to beat Bret Hart cleanly the next night on Raw.
Didn't he tell Vince McMahon the night of that pay-per-view when he debuted as Santa Claus F off? Like, and then he wondered why he lost his job, so.
Well, you had mentioned something about The Undertaker. You had a theory.
I have a theory, and I'm not going to take any credit for this theory. We talked about the NWO coming in, or I'm sorry, let's just say Hall and Nash for now. But we debate. That's what I hear. But we debate how good of influence they are going to be in the locker room, in the ring, whatever. Do you think this Undertaker move, being eliminated by Maven, and as cliche as it sounds, the Undertaker is the franchise of the WWF? Being eliminated by Maven, who is this close to being absolutely nobody, do you think that was a message sent to Hall and Nash to some degree?
I mean, in what degree?
Well, I think
The thing
it's
is,
just showing these
Kevin
guys.
Nash and Scott Hall pick up on the subtlety, though. That's just the thing. They probably didn't even notice.
Well, I mean, I'm sure Vince will say, hey, go look what Undertaker's doing. But, but no, look at it this way. I mean, it's just one of those things where, the Undertaker got eliminated, but the crowd popped for it. And I think by the Undertaker beating the crap out of Maven, I think that forwards his character a little bit as far as him being this destructive force, him being, well, in the hardcore divisions, supposedly. And I just think by putting Maven over, I think his character, it certainly didn't hurt, and I think it helped him.
And he did the right thing for the company and the right thing for Maven,
Exactly.
because people are going to remember Maven for this.
Yes, and he had every right to say, well, how about maybe, I don't know, Matt Hardy?
Yeah.
That's not unreasonable to say something
I
like
think
that.
the Maven eliminating the Undertaker was just a noteworthy way for the Undertaker to get eliminated in the Royal Rumble, since he really wasn't in a position to win it. So rather than him, I guess, get thrown out like by Austin or someone else, to get another one of those Austin Taker feuds in the works, we could maybe just have Maven throw him out, and that's something people will talk about the next night.
that's
See
another thing.
Maven throw the Undertaker
And the
out.
insiders like us are going to say, well, he did set a good example, and hey, if that wasn't an intent and it helps, more power to him.
It's an interesting theory, but along the same line, look what Chronic did when they came in. I mean, Chronic went out there, wrestled, 2 whole matches in WWF, you're gone, you suck. Yeah. So I don't think, maybe the little subtlety, it might have been a subtlety, it could have been just coincidence, but the thing is, if Hall and Nash resort to their old tactics, and we have a pose at Scott Hall here in the figure, actually in the package, we'll get to a little later in the show. But if they go back to their old, I get long-winded sometimes, if they go back to their old tactics, I don't think Vince has any problem saying, get the hell out.
Yeah, and you also have the Undertaker in a position to say, hey guys, look what I did for the good of the company. It's time to step up and do it.
Well, we're black and white, so we really got to get out of here before Mr. Dickinson freaks. So we're going to come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Rumble, and we'll eventually get to the NWO back after this.
Make me an effective instrument of thy peace.
In the defense of the skies that canopy free nations. Instill within me an abiding awareness of my responsibility toward you, my country, and my fellow man.
So guide me daily in each thought, word, and deed, that I may fulfill your will.
For more than 50 years, there has been a place where men and women of integrity have been able to make a difference in the world. We invite you to let your voice be heard in your nation's Air Force.
May these graces abide with me, my loved ones, and all those who share my country's trust.
Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy
support those most in need. Call 1-800-899-0089. See how you can help.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Review. We thank you for joining us this week, and we wanted to tie up a little bit some of the other things in the Rumble. The one thing we can talk about is the Ric Flair, Vince McMahon. Oh, and there you go.
Well, before we go to that,
I told you I don't know where your money is.
Where's the beer?
Next time you think about keying a car, especially in Japan, kids, this is what could happen to you. Hands in the air, guns drawn, flashlights on, arrested.
Isn't it the cop's face behind him?
It's Scott Hall with hands on the roof of the car action. Oh, wow.
Oh, you got a chuckle out of Mr. Dickinson on that one.
Yeah.
The man who never laughs is never happy.
Yeah, he's pretty miserable. But yeah, we were just going to tie up some loose ends with the Rumble. We did have some singles matches. And actually, you know what? Here you go. How about Taz retaining a belt? That's incredible.
How about Taz winning? I mean,
yeah. Well, you know, here we go. Here we are jumping off the deep end again, getting our hopes up about Taz. New ring entrance video, new ring entrance music. I don't know. Hey, anytime you have Cypress Hill doing your ring entrance music, that must mean a push is coming. That or you're on pot.
I think it's ridiculous the fact that WWF wasted all these years bringing Taz in, letting him stew around. You know, he's got to earn his respect. I'm so tired of hearing that sometimes from Vince McMahon about how incoming guys that weren't brought up through the WWF system need to pay their dues.
Well, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall will have to.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they'll be at the power plant.
They'll be putting over the Hollies.
Whatever happened to the power plant? But
just Buzz Lightyear or whatever his name is, and trained.
Maybe to put this in perspective, Taz debuted what 3 Rumbles ago, including this one.
Yeah.
It took him 3 Rumbles after he debuted to win a tag title.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a little perspective for you from Pro Wrestling Review.
I think it's just one of those things. They built it up on Raw. I think it was a hometown victory for him, and they won the belts. And I think someone said, lo and behold, Taz and Spike seem to be working well together. Let's keep the belts around them.
Well, you know, it's funny. I don't know if anybody at home checks out ESPN.com, but on their section called Page 2, there's a guy called the Sports Guy. He does a column, and every now and again he'll review a WWF pay-per-view. He's actually a wrestling fan. It was great because he was talking about Taz and Spike being the tag belts or being the tag champs, and he said, you know, anybody who watches WWF knows that it's written in every wrestler's contract they have to have the tag belt for at least 2 weeks. So, you know, that's probably pretty accurate. Good column, by the way. But we
Lex
did have
Luger
that.
never had it.
What's that?
Lex Luger never had it.
Well, he also left the company too soon.
Oh.
'Cause him and Davey Boy were getting ready for a huge run. We also
right into a brick wall.
Yeah. We also had William Regal capturing the Intercontinental Championship against Edge in another situation where there's good and bad to it. I mean, Regal's definitely a good singles wrestler, a good character. For some reason, they've gotten him over as a heel, even though he's kind of white bread in the ring. But it also kind of stops Edge's development as a single star, and he's had 3-4 IC title reigns that mean pretty much nothing.
No, I wouldn't. Well, the Regal victory is good, like you said, good and bad for different reasons. Good, Regal gets a title, gets maybe a little bit of a push here with the IC title, fine. Edge's character has a little more development. You alluded to, Jim, earlier during the break about he's been suspended on camera or something to that effect. His character's more intense now than it's ever been, maybe being able to be taken a little more seriously in a couple months, maybe longer, move up to the main event level because of this more serious character.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
Well, I'd like to.
I mean, if that's the case, that's
You understand what I'm trying to say. His character has a little more depth now.
It seemed like at this point in time right now, they were more concerned about his character as opposed to giving him a solid title reign, which...
But the thing is, he's still feuding with Regal, though.
You can debate which should come first. I mean, that should have happened 6 months ago, then win the title. But
the feud should end in a cage match with the belt on the line, or a match to that effect. A mid-card feud ending in a cage match, a match of that stipulation with that gimmick on it. Mid-card feuds don't end in anything more than a whisper anymore.
But, you know what? It certainly doesn't look like that's going to happen though, because it looks like they're moving Regal on to Rob Van Dam after Van Dam beat him on SmackDown. I don't think that's where they're going with this. And I don't think Van Dam is a bad choice. I think that's a guy you can put that belt on and let him have a nice, good, solid run, because he is your next star.
It'll do a lot for Regal, too. I mean, the guy is getting over as a heel, but I think he needs somebody with a little bit more face value.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Rob Van Dam. Not taking nothing away from Edge, but until he attacked the referees on Raw, there really hadn't been a reason for fans to cheer Edge other than the fact that he wears, glasses. So I don't know, but I think it says a lot for the Intercontinental title, the fact that he lost it. He lost again the next night. He's just so frustrated with it that he just had to, let out his frustration. They go with the suspension angle.
I can see.
I'm sorry. You got to admit that Edge is one guy you can't keep down. I mean, you got to either get him back up after this character development. You got to get him back up to the IC title reign, or give him something of significance to do. This guy is far too talented to be pushed back.
There's no reason why you can't have a three-way between Rob Van Dam, Regal, and Edge. I mean, I think that would do a lot for Edge to be paired with Rob Van Dam.
Also, I think in the long run, if Edge does challenge Van Dam for the title, I think those two guys are going to match up a little better. Maybe that'll probably be your money feud, so to speak, for that particular
Imagine
belt.
that, a mid-card feud.
It'd be nice.
Actually might draw money and might be taken seriously.
But that could main event.
I'm sorry.
That could main event a Beat House show.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, it's your IC title. I mean, I like to think that that should be a little better than your mid card, though. I mean, that's one of those belts. It should be. It could be a main event. I mean, with the talent we're talking about with the Regal, with the appeal of Van Dam and the talent of Edge.
I guess my only bone of contention here with Edge, I mean, I agree with all the points. I mean, Edge's character certainly wasn't ready, and they didn't really take time to develop it as they should have. But I think my problem is just the winning the belt, losing the belt, winning the belt, losing the belt. You know, and that's just been a constant problem in the WWF. And if they would have just let him have that belt and let him keep it, and then lose it to Regal, and then admit, okay, we need to pull back with this character and develop it a little bit further. At least he had a solid title reign behind him where people could have said, well, look, he was the IC champ all this time, you know, he got tripped up and he'll move on. But I just think it was so erratic that it almost makes these IC belt wins look like flukes.
But they're doing one other thing very important, and you brought this up, Rennie, when he did lose the title. Unlike a Test who loses a European title, it seems like every week, and just moves on to something else unrelated to the U.S. title. Edge actually cares about getting the belt back.
Right.
And the thing is, if him and Regal switch the belt maybe once or twice in a feud that lasts maybe 2 months, switch the belt maybe, you know, Regal wins one, Edge gets the best of him, Regal comes out the winner of the feud, and the belt changes hands twice. That's fine in my eyes. I don't consider it a rapid-fire title change. You looked at me with a weird look. Am I saying something weird?
No, I agree completely with you. But the other thing, and we brought this up many times on the show, is the fact that Edge is Intercontinental Champion. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with him feuding with Regal. But why, in the span of that long-term feud, can't they have smaller feuds in between? Maybe have Edge fight somebody different on a pay-per-view, have Regal fight somebody different on a pay-per-view, and then work their way back to each other 6 months down the road. And Edge has already beaten some people, while he's still Intercontinental Champion.
That would have been a good idea.
So just something to think about. But we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that happened on Raw, and we're also going to get to the NWO. Stay with us.
Oh my gosh, it's trivia time once again. And
Every freaking week.
Is there something up there?
No, I'm sorry, I thought something was falling.
Well, anyway, Jim and I being the Steeler Brigade, we're gonna do some trivia here. And Jim, why don't you?
Well, we'll just get right to it. The 3 questions off the website, www.prowrestlingview.com. Name the last 2 men in the 1995 Royal Rumble. That was Shawn Michaels and the British Bulldog. Question 2, 1996 Royal Rumble main event. Who was in it and how did it end? Who was in it? Undertaker, Bret Hart. Undertaker won by DQ. Question number 3 just blows my mind. Name the fruit that flew by the camera at the 1993 Royal Rumble. That would be an orange. And the question from the show last week.
Questions.
Exactly. Name the final 4 in the 94 Royal Rumble. That was Bret Hart, Lex Luger, Headshrinker Fatu, and Shawn Michaels. This week's winner is Gary Ashley from Katanning.
And Gary asks, where the hell is Dravosburg at? Well, Gary, when Atlantis sunk, Dravosburg was the piece that did not go with it. It's in a continent all unto itself, so you can only get there by water. Get a freaking map, Gary. Anyway.
Yeah, he's going to enter this week, I'm sure.
No, hey, Gary, you win from Original Pizza Works in Dravosburg. 1 large pie with 1 topping, 1 order of chicken wings, and a 2-liter bottle of carbonated beverage of your choice. Of course, you don't know where Dravosburg's at, so they may just slap you whatever you want, or whatever they want to give you, but that's all right. Anyway, the question for this week, in case you do want to venture out to Dravosburg, who did Savio Vega replace in the 8-man tag team match at the 1998 No Way Out? And for bonus points, who picked off Elvis Gerbuck's first pass? God, what a wimp. Anyway.
After you answer that question on the show, go into www.prowrestlingview.com and click on trivia, answer those 3, send it all to prowrestlingview@legos.com.
And if you don't know where Dravosburg's at, you can go to what's that called? MapQuest.com. And you can look it up.
You know, it's funny, I have people every day at work come into me with MapQuest, get completely lost by it. So.
Yeah. I went to DC and back on MapQuest. We should get out of this segment.
Probably.
Well, enjoy the pizza, Gary, and for all you people who want to be just like Gary and eat pizza too, enter the contest, and that's about all.
I'm so glad this segment's over. I've had this craving for pizza all day, and whether it's 12 cheeses, stuffed crust, or whatever, people just don't make pizza anymore that you can eat without a gimmick.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Review. We thank you for joining us this week, and we're going to talk about Raw a little bit. And perhaps the most noteworthy thing on Raw is that the wrestlers that came back during the Rumble had some, I guess you can say, significant time on Raw. I don't know if that means there's going to be a future for Henning, Goldust, Venus, and the Godfather, but
there is.
Well, just because they get time on
in
Raw,
his best monotone voice.
Oh no, they wouldn't have been on Raw if those guys weren't sticking around. They're sticking around. Goldust got a promo on Raw and SmackDown.
The thing about Henning, though, he may be dead after that chair shot Austin gave him, carelessly, I'd like to add, but...
Well, he wrestled Val Venus. It was shaping up to be an okay match before Steve Austin came down.
And that's the one thing I want to say about Steve Austin's promo. I'm so annoyed to the point of I'm ready to turn the channel when he comes out and starts doing this what stuff. But then he does the Beverly Hillbillies thing, which I think is complete garbage. I think some people on the internet thought it was kind of cute. He's doing the best he can with this gimmick. How about change? Don't say it anymore. It's completely.
But you know what?
worthless.
It's making money. I mean, you can't change something that's making money.
I understand that, but I just, and I said this a few weeks ago in a column that I wrote, that you really can't punish Austin for doing something that seems so simple but yet so over and so profitable. So. But I mean, there's a way that he can do this without having to completely annoy people with reciting the themes of the Beverly Hills.
I think that was pointless, but I think the weeks leading up to the Rumble, it was entertaining as far as what he did. At least I found it. Obviously, you disagree by shaking your head.
Well, see, the Beverly Hillbillies thing is fine for a house show. I mean, if he's going to come out during a house show and you just want him to come out and get the crowd fired up, that's your time to do it. But you don't waste...
He interrupted
20 minutes on Raw.
Could have been, like Jim said, a good match between Henning and Val.
Right.
And the confrontation between Austin and Val, if you look at the look that Val had in his eyes was the same look Austin had in 1998. A guy who is definitely ready to at least move on and do something. He's got to get away from this stupid gimmick and be given something.
I don't think he does. I don't think Val needs to get away from the gimmick.
He can't be the poor man's Rick Rude. He's playing the poor man's Rick Rude.
You know, it's funny. I thought the same thing Monday night when I was watching.
Exactly. I mean, it's just complete rude.
If he's a strong enough heel to pull it off, you might want to give it a shot.
See, the thing is about Venus, though, I think he should keep this gimmick for a while. This is where Venus is his strongest, is when he's doing this. He gets that attitude where he's more willing to push the envelope, and I think that's where he's best. We've seen Val in other roles where he just doesn't seem to have it. He has it with this role. It seems like he likes playing, the ex-porn star and stuff like that. And yeah, it may be a little bit limiting, and it may be a poor man's Rick Rude, but I think it works for him. And I think just as long as you don't pigeonhole him into every feud has to start with him, getting into an adulterous relationship with someone's wife,
right.
I think the thing can work.
But my point is, we saw the ex-porn gimmick in 1998, and Val's been on and off again, doing other things, doing the RTC. But to bring him back, I guess to reintroduce him as being the ex-porn guy, that's fine. But if they think this is going to last for 2 more years, and they're going to get the same Val gimmick for 2 years, that they're going to do it from now until 2004, they're in for a big rude awakening.
They've got to let him evolve.
Here's a thought. Let him talk. Let him develop out of that character, because I think we can all agree he has a pretty good mic presence.
He can talk.
Even when he was doing that RTC stuff, we can at least agree that he carried what he did on the mic. The gimmick itself didn't work, but he did what he had to do to get it over, or at least try to. How about this? Let him develop his own character on the mic, get away from this porn star, and here's a wacky idea: let him wrestle. Look, I think the guy's talented enough. That's going to go a long way.
You gave Edge and Val credit on this show, on this very show.
I think Val Venus is as good as Edge.
Look, what about Test? Better than Edge. I'll tell you right now, we've praised Booker T up and down on the show as being a main eventer. I think Val Venus has more potential than Booker T. As good as Booker T is, Val Venus is younger, he's in better shape, he talks better, he seems to have more of a sense for the business. I think Val Venus can be huge. But you know what I mean. But they just don't seem to every time it seems like he gains momentum, they pull him back. They've got to decide.
It was a good start Monday night, because when you get face-to-face with Austin and get mic time, that's big.
But they've got to keep doing it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't have to be
the hell knocked out of you too. But I mean, I guess
that still counts for something.
Val's not really in a position to go over on Austin, considering.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you don't put him in the ring every week with Austin, but there's no harm in having Austin beat him in a match.
Yeah, him being in the ring with him.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't put him in the ring with Austin next week again and have him feud with Austin. But you keep that promo Monday night in the back of people's minds. Let him wrestle some feuds. Let him win. Keep him on the mic.
But very important, if there were a Val-Austin feud, you have Austin go over on Val. The thing is, you have Val get his heat back, attack Austin after the match, not the other way around after Austin wins. And one other point I wanted to bring up, you had Godfather, Val, 2 guys that returned to the WWF. Godfather, a perfect gimmick that could not last for 2 years. That's the gimmick you saddle him with, pigeonhole him, because it's not going anywhere. That's to send the fans home happy. You have him come out, maybe on Raw, whenever.
Let's face it,
The thing is
the
that
lack of gimmick, the lack of talent.
what I'm
to do
equating it
that.
to, though, is the Val gimmick, the porno gimmick. You cannot keep that gimmick like a Godfather gimmick. The Godfather gimmick is a classic dictionary example, is good for what it is. It's not going up, it's not going down, it just is. Val needs to break out of that, needs to expand out of that, obviously, like we've been talking about this whole segment, out of the porno star gimmick, unlike the Godfather, who is good for what he is and nothing more.
The fans aren't buying the Godfather gimmick anymore.
Who cares?
Okay.
I mean, let's not compare Godfather to Val Venus here. Hold on.
I'm not at all, but what I'm saying is,
I
you
did.
saw the fans on Raw. Godfather came out, it was a very small pop, and then it was like, get out of the ring.
Yeah.
There's a reason it doesn't work now, though.
But let me get back to Tom's point. As far as getting out of that character for Val Venus, with his face-to-face with Austin, you would agree that he could have done that promo without any connection to his porn star gimmick.
Yeah.
You would agree with that?
Yeah.
He did it well.
Yes, he
And
did
I think
do it
that's
very
the
well.
type of thing he needs to do. When he gets into a serious feud everybody has to take seriously. He can do that. He doesn't have to be the porn star when he's talking like that.
No.
Bring him into the ring before the match.
The porn star brings him to the ring, not to the ring, brings him to the WWF. What he does afterwards is all Val, and I think he has the capability of doing that.
Well, we're black and white, so we're going to get going. We're going to come back, maybe pick up a little bit more on this and talk a little bit about the NWO when we return.
This is Stephon Devereaux.
And this is Diamond Lee, and you're watching Top Rank Wrestling, so don't go anywhere.
What's up with that, yo? Oh, man.
Hi, I'm Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Eileen Collins. It was a great thrill for me to be the first woman to pilot the space shuttle. But without a high school diploma, I would have never made it into space. Graduating from Elmira Free Academy prepared me for college and a career in the Air Force. And education can mean spectacular opportunities for you, too. So stay in school, graduate, and maybe I'll see you in the United States Air Force.
Yes, we have returned for a fifth segment, and we are going to continue talking about a little bit of WWF. We need to get into the NWO here because obviously the seeds for that storyline were planted on Monday night.
Oh, no, they weren't.
Yeah, okay. When Vince McMahon came out and talked to Ric Flair, and actually, I'll address this. Some people on our website, I think, missed the point and were kind of asking us, what are you talking about? The NWO thing didn't start Monday. No, it actually did start Monday. When Ric Flair was cutting his promo, cutting a great promo, by the way, talking about his career and how he had sacrificed family, Vince McMahon came out and told him that Ric Flair was killing the WWF and that he was going to do something to stop Ric Flair that even he would regret. And that clearly was the NWO because I think he was kind of drawing on what people on the internet have been, actually even what us on this show have been saying, we on this show have been saying, that hiring guys like Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Hulk Hogan were going to end up being a political disaster, which is going to ruin the company. Mm-hmm. And for the people that did doubt that was starting Monday night, on Thursday on SmackDown, we found out for sure that that's what it was. When McMahon did the series of vignettes that at the end of the show saw him get up out of his chair, revealing the NWO logo.
And I think the bigger picture of bringing the NWO back, obviously the impact of Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and whomever else joins them, that's fine. But I think really is what they want to do with bringing them in is to start the two different companies. And I think that's going to be. I think that's the big reason why they're doing this, because they think that with Hall and Nash, and maybe even bringing someone like a Perfect or a Goldust back, you're getting some more names to come back and split them up after WrestleMania.
Actually. That's a good point. We should have brought up earlier. Yeah, having that just to jump on Goldust and Kurt Hennig real quickly. Kurt Hennig's a great guy to have at the top of one of those two companies.
As long as the guy's in good shape, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about Hennig next segment, but the guy's in good shape, he can still play a good heel. I think Jim brought up during one of our breaks, his interaction with Deborah was good. It was all about delivery. It was the same Mr. Perfect we've seen before that feuded with Hulk Hogan 10 years ago. That's fine. There's a guy you cannot build a promotion around, but he can still be an asset in one of the second promotions.
And the thing is, he's been around, 15 years now? He might be able to teach, I'll throw out the Hardy Boys, for example. He might be able to teach them.
There's a good hand in the ring.
To draw on that, on WWF.com, I don't know if people at home saw this interview, there was an interview with Kurt Hennig where they were asking him what it was like to be back. And one of the things he said in that interview is he said he thinks that with all his experience in the ring, he has something to offer the young talent. That's something great that you want to see from a 43-year-old guy who's got a couple years left in him, who's in great shape, who's a great wrestler, That's a guy. I mean, if I was 20, 21 years old, just getting into the business, just trying to learn the ropes, I would love to learn from a guy like Curt Hennig.
You mean you wouldn't rather learn from the big boss man, who's quote unquote a good hand in the ring?
Yeah.
I'd actually rather learn from Tito Santana.
Yeah.
What? How to?
I'd like to learn
Maybe the
from
Barbarian. I'm still debating.
I'd like to learn from the big boss man how to be lousy and maintain a job.
Oh, but he gets the crowd going with that nightstick. But oh God, there, double pun there.
Well,
I don't know.
Let's bring up another thing we haven't really talked about yet.
Double pun.
How about Goldust? Can we throw Goldust into the same category as
Why not?
Curt Hennig? I mean, he's maybe a little more character. I mean, obviously not as talented on his
Yeah,
best
but
days
don't
as
forget,
Hennig. But
WWF took the Goldust character from 1996 when he was giving Razor Ramon gold teddy bears and moved it a little further and interviewed Dustin Reynolds without the makeup. And therefore, that's how they turned Goldust from being a freak into a face. They made people understand that this is Dustin Reynolds, this is a character he's portraying. Obviously, you know, maybe against the wishes of his dad, so they kind of had backstory with it, and that's what made Goldust last for 2-3 more years.
Dustin's not exactly the most skilled wrestler in the ring, but I think the one thing you can say
But
strong
he's
about
solid.
Yeah, he's solid, and he knows how to build a storyline inside a match from beginning, middle to end.
I'm sorry, Tom.
Again, the Hardy Boys could learn that.
But one thing, when you're talking about Val, when you're talking about Perfect, when you're talking about Goldust, talking about Hall and Nash, even maybe Hogan to a certain extent, even Steiner, one thing the WWF cannot do is rely on that first week pop, wow, and then go from there.
Right.
They cannot rely on their old adage, for lack of a better word. They need to, 3 weeks tops, then the buzz wears off of it, then move on with them. Not move on with them, advance the story,
Yeah,
not
try
move
to
on
do
per se with the NWO. But you cannot rely on the fact that, oh, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were the NWO and WCW, that's it. You have to advance them.
Yeah.
Well, to build on Tom's point, you bring Scott Hall, you bring Kevin Nash back. Obviously, people are going to be excited to see them because they haven't seen them in a while. But after a month, after 2 months, and after this NWA thing wears off, these guys have to break apart and start feuding with maybe somebody like, you know, and I said Lance Storm last week, and maybe that's a little too low for these guys right off the bat, but you need to have matches that mean something with these guys in it. They can't just come out, they can't just cut their promos, and they just can't leave.
Yeah.
They have to have matches, they have to have feuds that mean something.
They just can't be upper echelon as far as their matches go.
Right, like Kevin Nash, believe it or not, has to work hard in his matches because WWF fans expect good matches from their main eventers because they've had it for the last, 6-7 years, starting with when Shawn Michaels won the title. Right. Even go back even further to Bret Hart.
Yeah,
they demand that now. So he can't just go in there and, screw
Muddle
around.
through a match.
Yeah. Well, see, another thing I think they need to do with this too, and this is the one thing WCW, just to show you the lack of wisdom in WCW, the one thing they forgot to do is they need strong opposition. Once the NWO has to go over strong at first. But after that happens, they have to have a strong force to fight the NWO and eventually beat it. Because that's what WCW just forgot. They're like, well, we can have the NWO dominate our company, but if there's nobody to fight back, then what's the point?
Another thing I want to tie in with that. The thing that WCW they had some of the strong, they started the strong undercard as far as the good wrestling goes, but they never elevated those guys. And how many times do we have to say this on a weekly basis? But that's the thing WCW didn't do. They didn't really move those guys up during the NWO era.
Yeah.
And even by the time Benoit got to the world title, it was too late.
But one damn guy got elevated by the whole NWO. One guy, and that's Dallas Page. That's it. That's the only wrestler who went into this story.
You can't do that again.
Right. You've got to get more people to benefit from the NWO. This could be huge. This will be huge. But the WWF has to learn how to make money off it in the long run and how it can benefit them 3 years down the line.
And this is going to seem self-explanatory, what I'm about to say. And by advancing the story of the NWO or just moving it along, that doesn't mean adding a whole bunch of new members like the Boss Man just for the sake of adding new members. Not another LWO, not a fifth incarnation like WCW. How many NWO incarnations do they have? Literally
60.
five or six. To advance the story is to advance the story, not throw guys in there for the sake of just popping a rating.
And the other thing too is the NWO has to be the NWO at least for a while. You can't have, and they made this mistake with the Alliance. You can't just take WWF guys and put them in the NWO and expect the people to go, wow, Austin's in the NWO. It's not going to work.
Yeah. Well, we're going to come back. We're going to do our world famous rants, and that'll be it. So please come back.
Make me an effective instrument of thy peace.
In the defense of the skies that canopy free nations. Instill within me an abiding awareness of my responsibility toward you, my country, and my fellow man.
So guide me daily in each thought, word, and deed, that I may fulfill your will.
For more than 50 years, there's been a place where men and women of integrity have been able to make a difference in the world. We invite you to let your voice be heard in your nation's Air Force.
May these graces abide with me, my loved ones, and all those who share my country's trust.
Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crown thy good, oh, with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Support those most in need. Call 1-800-899-0089. See how you can help.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Review. We thank you for joining us this week, and I'm going to talk about the WWF tag team division a little bit. I don't think they're on the verge of revitalizing division, but I think they're on the verge of getting some new blood and maybe some new teams up there. We mentioned it earlier. I like the Taz Spike Dudley team. No reason for it. I'm just a Taz fan, but it's believe it or not, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, and guys, stay in your seats. I actually like the Kane Big Show team. I actually like the idea of two guys who are tag teams who just don't see eye to eye, and they may end up fighting. I mean, don't give them the belts for the love of God, but just keep them in the tag division. Chuck and Billy, I think, are providing some entertaining moments, and as much as I hate Scotty, Too Hotty, and Albert, I think those guys are getting some fan following. So you got 4 good teams there for various strengths, but the Hardys are coming back, and they're a little the comeback to WWF pop they got. And if you didn't misuse the Dudleys, you'd be on a verge of a really good tag team here. So maybe, just take your time with these teams, give the Dudleys a chance to revitalize themselves, and I think you'll have a pretty good tag division. In closing, I just want to say, Steelers 37, Patriots 10, Tom Brady will not finish the game.
You stole my gimmick, man.
I did it
I
last
finished
week.
my rants with the...
Well,
yeah, but nobody could hear you.
You both can make predictions, guys.
I'm kidding.
You can pick the NFC too.
It wouldn't be the show if I didn't give Jim a hard time. So. We talked about Kurt Hennig and Goldust a little earlier. I just want to expand on that a little bit. I think Kurt Hennig, that's just a tremendous signing, bringing him back. Very good wrestler. We've already said, he's got himself. I think he's probably in the best shape of his life from the way he looked. He looks, just as good as he ever has. And to build on something actually Rennie said, I believe on the website this week, you got to take the Mr. Perfect character a little further, and I think you're going to talk about that in your rant as well. Goldust, now the thing I want to say about Goldust is this. Goldust is a character that I think Dustin Runnels, it's about time he's got to start embracing this character. It's about time that he realizes that he has finally found something that takes him out of the shadow of Dusty Rhodes. And I know that, before the character was so taboo and people were embarrassed saying, oh, they're trying to embarrass Dustin Runnels. I don't think that's true at all. This is a character that nobody in the world but Dustin Runnels could play. He does such a good job with the Goldust character. You can tell he gets into it. He likes it. I mean, just from these first 2 promos he's done since he's been back, he's completely back in the Goldust persona. They need to take this character and make it dark like it used to be. I think they just kind of lost their way with him. They did a good job by, taking you behind the character and showing you who Dustin Runnels is. But after that happened, he did the born-again Christian and all that. Dustin Runnels as a wrestler is not interesting. He's not fun to watch. Goldust is. He's a great character, and I think they need to go back and make him risky again. And Steelers over Patriots and Rams over Eagles. So, ready?
Well, I don't know anything about football because my favorite team is the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're awesome. Shut up.
Sorry.
Anyway, Brian, you did a nice
At least
job.
you shelved Elvis Gerbach.
I told everybody from the beginning, but that's another story.
That's a load of garbage.
I said he sucked.
That's why you bought his jersey.
Steve Bono's jersey. Anyway, we're getting off on a tangent about football, and it's not good. Brian, you did a nice job setting me up for the Kurt Hennig rant that I was going to do. One thing I did mention about his return at the Royal Rumble and on Raw was the fact that you kind of have to build on the Mr. Perfect gimmick. And I think one of the ways that they can do that is have Kurt Hennig feud with somebody really important, make that his first feud. And the person I would pick would be Steve Austin. I know what everybody's thinking out there. You're all probably want to say, what? But, the thing is, you have to understand, Mr. Perfect, this was a guy back in 1991 who was on the verge of feuding with Hulk Hogan legitimately for the world title. But the crew of fans that are watching the WWF right now don't understand that. They don't understand how Mr. Perfect's gimmick used to work. And I realize I'm not trying to demean the people that do understand Curt Hennig and do understand how the Mr. Perfect character works, but you need to reintroduce Mr. Perfect as being that smug, cocky heel at 43 years of age. But I think ultimately, if they want this character to succeed, a feud with Austin, even a WrestleMania match with Steve Austin wouldn't be out of the question if it's done right leading up to the event. Then afterwards, Hennig can start feuding with mid-card guys, and people will say, well, this was a guy that just feuded with Steve Austin. Maybe he's worth watching, and maybe the guy he's wrestling is worth watching. So at 43 years of age, he might not be perfect, but he's pretty damn close.
In this past Thursday, or actually 2 Thursdays ago on SmackDown, you saw Chris Jericho come out and confront The Rock about not taking Jericho seriously, everything we've been saying on this show. And we saw The Rock's best attempt, half-assed at best, to cut a serious promo. And you know it's serious because The Rock always says that tick-tock, tick-tock. Like he can't come up with anything better than that. And he still made a complete ass of himself. And I was going to try to do a serious rant on this without letting my blind hatred for The Rock come out. But the fact is, Jericho cut a great promo, summed up everything we've been saying, others have been saying about The Rock, not taking him seriously, looking past him. And The Rock ruined it by saying tick-tock, tick-tock, and just didn't focus more on the interview. Did not focus on the match. And a lot of people, you might disagree with me out there. I'm sure you do, because frankly, I'm very annoying and I'm very damn good at it at that. But the point is, there's no help for The Rock. This past Thursday on SmackDown, he's got Jonathan Coachman to dance. He's an ass. And by the way, you people out there that watch the game show The Chair, shame on you.
We just had that conversation.
Jim, my feet are burning up right now. Boy. No one's going to die on the damn show. Do you realize that?
Lap, or what did they do last week? Drop an alligator?
Let's not forget about the Chamber either. That's mindless television at its finest.
I don't even know if I called it the right name. You get the point.
Well, if you want to read my column, it's called Sharpshooter. You can read it on the internet at www.dailynewsmckeesport.com at the columnist section, or you can pick it up on newsstands everywhere. I talk a little bit more about the NWO coming back and some thoughts on the Royal Rumble.
And if you want to read my column, you can pick it up on the newsstands tomorrow, or you can read it on the web. It's www.triblive.com/sports. And I'm also going to talk about the NWO, so please read it. And
it's that nice 1-2 punch.
Well, the thing is, we pick the biggest story and run with it.
That's right.
Together.
If you want to reach us on the internet, it's Pro Wrestling Review at lycos.com, and our website is www.prowrestlingreview.com. Click on my column. I have the new What Rolls up if you haven't seen it already.
You updated your column?
Yes, I did. It's every 4th month on a lunar site.
Ladies and gentlemen, God's coming back.
And hey, the Chair fans, trivia buffs, what have you, this week's question, once again, who did Savio Vega, whatever, who did Savio Vega replace in the 8-man tag at the 1998 No Way Out? I think I said that right. Real quick, once again, who did Savio Vega, Bling Bling, the favorite Mexican token black man, replace in the 8-man tag at the 1998 No Way Out? And hey, that was written down. I wrote it ad lib.
That could be sent to IHatePWR at CS.com.
You can see the writing right there.
Yeah, exactly. It was written for me. I didn't screw anything up.
We gotta go.
Except the whole show, so, well, I guess I'll take it out. For me, for Rennie, for Brian, and for Jim, this is Pro Wrestling Review, and hopefully next week we'll get to some letters. Thank you. Keep sending them, and thank you.